there's a book called How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Now, this is a very powerful book. I remember when I first saw this book, I was inside of a sauna at Lifetime here in Las Vegas, and there was this lady that was in the sauna reading a book, and I saw the book was How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why would you want to break the habit of being yourself? Don't you want to be more of yourself? But the premise of I saw it was by Dr. Joe Dispenza. So I was like, oh, I've heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I saw him in a documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? This is like 3-4 years ago. So I was like, okay, let me read it. So I read it, and actually what it talks about is very powerful. What it talks about is it shows the quantum physics and the mixed with neuroscience of how what we think, what we feel, and how we act is on autopilot. We're playing the same reality over and over and over again. And who we think we are, who our personality is what we think, feel, and act, and our personalities create our personal reality. So the habit of being ourselves is the habit of us being in the same reality we've been in on autopilot over and over and over again. And until we break out of that mind, until we break out of that pattern, that habit of being ourselves, of who we think we are, we're going to continue to get the same reality over and over again. So something else that's kind of talked about in the book is one of the powerful things to do is to actually completely do something you've never done before. Because when you step out and you do something you've never done before, what happens is your mind can't pick up the patterns of the associations. So if you go to the same job every day, if you get up on the same side of bed every day, you brush your teeth the same way every day, you do the same routine every day, you do the same thing for breakfast every day, everything you do is information. And doing that on autopilot keeps you within that realm of comfort, which means you're going to have very predictable results. In the future, you're going to continue to got what you've always got because you're continuing to do what you've always done. If you want to do something new and experience a new reality, the key is actually going beyond that consistency and doing something new. In the unknown is where magic can happen. So this book, The Habit of Being Yourself, How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself, is a very powerful book by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Also, right now, I want you guys all to know that any of these books that I'm sharing with you right now, you can get on Audible. Audible, in my opinion, is one of the easiest ways to listen to books. I listen to books. Some of these books it's hard for me to find because I actually listen to the Audible books. And I listen to Audible when I'm running. I listen to Audible when I'm cleaning, when I'm at the gym. I listen to Audible when I'm driving. Audible is extraordinarily powerful because it's easy to listen to. And there's a lot of really good narrators too, I found. And even there's a really good book on Audible. You guys are going to get like 12 or 13 books that I'm talking about. There's one called Outwitting the Devil. Very much recommend this book. It's by Napoleon Hill. Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. There's a book called Think and Grow Rich, which also should be on this list. And it's one of the books that so many millionaires have said have made them millionaires. This book, Think and Grow Rich, which is about understanding our thoughts, our emotions, and giving service out in the world and how that comes back to us. And in this book, Napoleon Hill, back in the 1930s, it was one of the top-selling personal development books. What happened was there was a book that was his family would not let him put out because of the religious scrutiny it would get talking about it. But it's called Outwitting the Devil, and it's a conversation with the author talking to this idea of the devil, and this idea is people drifting their thoughts. And what it has to do with is how this invisible force, the devil not being some actual person, but this invisible force of drifting. And drifting is what scatters energy. Drifting is the thing that causes is like the enemy in a way. And the dialogue on Audible is amazing, of this like deep voice of the devil in this conversation. It's not scary, but it is kind of like, it really is so easy to listen to. And I highly recommend that book, The Outwitting the Devil with Napoleon Hill, and get the Audible book specifically. And you guys, I also have this link, this deal with Audible, where you get 2 free books if you go to Audible. So what you do is you go to Aaron Doughty, AARONDOUGHTY.com/listen, LISTEN. That will take you to an Audible page where you will get 2 free books, 2 free Audible books. I'd recommend you get Outwitting the Devil for sure, and then How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself. The Untethered Soul is another great one to get on Audible. I'm looking at the ones that are good on Audible. Those 2 for sure are really good. But in general, go to Aaron Doughty, AARONDOUGHTY.com/listen, LISTEN, and download get your 2 free Audible books. And it's either 1 or 2 books. I can't remember, but I think it's 2. But anyways, yeah, get that free book and listen to it. Outwitting the Devil is so good. And yeah, that's a book that I also go back to every now and then. Actually, I don't even have the book. I have the Audible book. But I listen to that because it's so entertaining to listen to and to see how we can... the idea is mainly to be focusing on what you want to experience in your life, because when we're drifting, we're scattering our energy, and that's what causes all pain in the world, in our own reality at least. So that's another book as well. And like I said, you can go to aarondoughty.com/listen to get your free Audible book and to download that. So now the next book is one that Steve Jobs, the only book that Steve Jobs had on his iPad. He read it every single year the last 40 years of his life. You've probably heard me talk about this book before, but it is called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Paramahansa Yogananda is an amazing being who brought yoga from the east to the west, from India to the United States. He's known for bringing yoga here. He has something called the Self-Realization Fellowship. He's got these places in San Diego and LA that are these fellowships with the amazing gardens, very zen out places. I've been to one of them before. It's so nice. I want to go to the one in San Diego as well. But Paramahansa Yogananda talks about his journey through enlightenment. You hear him talk about these magical experiences he had. You know, this is back in the 1920s and 1930s, 1910, when he met his Sri Yakuteswar, his yogi. But he literally experienced magic in his life, and it was a part of his daily, his regular life. And he talks about his journey of going through enlightenment. He shares his enlightenment experience and what that's like. And he shares how we can also go through that process as well. And there's so many stories in that book that are just very, his meeting with Gandhi. He talks about some really cool stories with the other enlightened yogis that he met. And when you read that book, you really realize that reality is much more magical than we think. The higher you raise your level of consciousness, the more magical life becomes. And that's one thing that's talked about in this book. So it's very interesting. And Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that book as an Audible book. I found it kind of hard to listen to, but I would recommend that book in general and to read that book. It's kind of harder to read at first, but once you get into the flow of it, it's easier. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, thank you for recommending that book. That book calibrates on the scale of consciousness, I think at like 600 on that of 0, and not many books resonate over like 500. So it's a very congruent, authentic book, and it's very powerful. I hope you guys enjoyed that small clip. If you want to listen to all of the videos that I have on the top videos, there's many others that other than what you heard that really changed my life in a very powerful way. You can click the link below, listen to the whole podcast episode. You can listen to it on either Spotify or iTunes. It's completely free to listen to. There's over 100 other episodes as well that I've been released. I summarized Dr. Joe Dispenza's teaching recently into one short video or episode, like 20-30 minute episode. I've been putting a lot of intention there and a lot of energy there. So check out the podcast. I do episodes every Tuesday and Friday every week, and I look forward to sharing more of them with you. So with that being said, you'll see that link below. And as always, peace, much love, and namaste.